this one, I was, it kind of ran out.
This time okay, this Reading Center report is the right one. This week, she hadn't sent it to me on Tuesday, and I didn't realize, I get so many emails that what I do is, I just, when I'm looking for it, I just type in her name and report, and something comes up and I print it out. Well, what came up was last week, so I didn't even realize we didn't have this. So this one is a little more worrisome than the other one. There are some people who are falling below passing, okay? So these people, a couple of people here, and then there's, again, these people with six absences. We're at that place in the semester where if you are looking at your schedule and whatever, I know people have other things to do, but if you are thinking, I'm not going to be able to make these absences up, or I'm just not going to be able to get down there and do that stuff, then you do need to think about that withdrawal date and find out whatever your situation is with your counselor or whatever. Okay, again, I'm not telling anyone at this point, I'm not, unless I've talked to you personally about it, I'm not telling anyone to drop, but just be aware, because from my point of view, it happens every semester. A student comes to me 2 weeks before class ends, pleading with me to drop them because otherwise they're going to lose their financial aid, or they're going to do this and this is going to happen. And I say, you know what? I warned you about this. You need to take the responsibility. At that point, I can't do anything about it. So again, it's this, you know, this thing that I've been saying throughout the semester. I want you guys to be aware of stuff, and you have to make your decisions and know when you have to make them. Okay? So if you get, you know, to this point and then go down there and plead with them to let you pass, it's not going to happen. You have to do something about it now. Okay, so that's, I'll leave this up here for you guys to look at. Then I have a list on the board, which I know I've had up there before. I always try to put them up in the same place. But please don't just look at it and say, oh, that's Miss Penny's list. I've copied that down 100 times. I don't need to look at it again, because it's growing, okay? We've talked about a lot of different strategies in this class, right? We started this semester talking about putting complete sentences together, and as we found out, that strategy has become extraordinarily important in writing our main ideas, okay? Then we worked on vocabulary strategies, the strategy of seeing a word that we don't know in a piece of reading and being able to figure it out without having to look in the dictionary every time we come up on a word we don't know, okay? Then we went back to the complete sentences and started putting what we read into our own words, starting with some shorter pieces, okay? Making marginal notes. Each one of these can be called a separate strategy, okay? So that when we get to the student learning outcomes, which is what you're supposed to be able to do when you get out of this class, use various reading strategies at the paragraph level, the sentence level, and the word level. And you guys can already do that, because these are all the various strategies that you've demonstrated that you can learn, okay, that you can do, okay? Picking out the topic, which is one of the things, this is where this comes together. We spent 2 weeks just learning to discover what the topic was, okay? And that's what I want to point out here, is that this, that thing, which is a strategy in itself, is also part of what I call this overall strategy. For the first time, I've given this list a title. And my title of this list is Picking Apart a Paragraph to See What Purpose Each Sentence Serves. Okay? So within this, you're going to see some of the other strategies that we've worked on separately. Okay? Finding the topic, putting the topic into your words, cities and guns, or whatever. And then this, we spent 2 whole weeks on this, right? Putting that main idea into a complete sentence. So these are strategies in themselves, but now I'm putting them together into an overall strategy. Okay, so that's how this stuff all kind of comes together. And the other thing is, these strategies of using vocabulary strategies and making notes, doing your annotating, highlighting, that kind of stuff, that's not on here as itself, but as you know, you have to do that in order to do this stuff, right? You have to look through the paragraph, see what's repeated most often, see if there's a reversal transition, see if there's a list. All that has to do with this, even though that's not there, okay? And then we move on to main ideas, which is number 3. Okay, we're still, as usual, some people are still working on getting that into complete sentences, but people are doing a lot better with that. People are getting the idea of that. Okay, then we talked about finding the topic sentence, which is the sentence in the paragraph that comes closest to your main idea. And of course, we've been talking about transitions throughout the semester, but we've kind of really looked at those as a way to start our search for the topic sentence. Say a good place to start looking for the topic sentence, if I don't already see it, is the sentence that has the reversal transition. So that's why the book has it. It has these 2 things in the same chapter. But we have seen that throughout. Okay? So now we're moving what I'm doing, as you can probably figure out after being in here all semester, I'm introducing the homework I'm going to give you for over the weekend, right? Which is a new module. Okay? So again, this is what we've done so far, okay? And this is what is on your reading and writing exercise for today, okay? These 3 steps are your new homework that I'm going to give you for over the weekend, okay? So, supporting details. All right, that's our new idea. Okay, so this is your homework. That's what we're going to add. But as I always try to do in this class, as I hope you will see, this is not an entirely new concept. Because guess what you will find? Let me see if I can just grab, I should be able to just grab up somebody's homework and find a good example of this. Here I go again, looking in the other class's homework and taking it apart. Okay. The supporting details in a paragraph are what? What if I say that you guys have already been doing this and this isn't such a new idea? Where have you been keeping track of the supporting details in the paragraph you've been reading?
And annotating the steps.
Yes, exactly. Your list. Guess what? Those famous lists that I've been pushing you to do all semester. Okay? Yes, your lists. Remember this one? That one about the remembering. The two things in that list were the Anita Hill scandal and the Whitewater scandal. Remember? And this person said, thought there was going to be another one, but then realized there wasn't, which is fine. Okay? So in other words, the two things, people can't always remember what happened, turned out to be the main idea there. And even though this is flipped in that the topic sentence came at the bottom, here's what we did, okay? Find the topic sentence, all right, which this person did, number 4. What questions does the topic sentence raise? What are some examples of, what are these stories? What two stories are you talking about? What are these examples? The answers to these questions are the supporting details, okay? So we've already been doing this, but now we're going to kind of look at it as from a different angle. I'm going to ask you, not actually, this homework, you'll be glad to know, is a little bit different. You have a little bit of a break from reading paragraphs, which you're about ready for. You're about sick of reading all those little paragraphs, right? This is a little bit different. I'll show you what it is. But then what we're going to go back into is doing this same stuff. But here is where I'm really, I've been writing notes to people. Now, what's this? Now, this isn't exactly perfect up here. So, for instance, on this person's, this would have been good. This is okay. But, and I just grabbed this out. Okay. Okay, this isn't quite right. Okay. Now, I'm really, when we learn how to do this, we learn how to pick out the supporting details. Now, I've been saying this is okay. You made an attempt to make a list. Remember this one? The 4 groups of sleep disturbances. So this person has 4 things here. But is this one correct? The first category includes sleep disturbances caused by psychological conditions. Did this person pick up the right words here? No. This needed to say psychological problems, okay? So now I'm going to start looking at these more closely to make sure that you really are picking up each supporting detail, okay? So we're refining these lists a little bit, really making sure you see what it is. And to go back to my title of this list, picking apart a paragraph to see what purpose each sentence serves. This way, we can see, as I've kind of been putting you in this direction, this is the topic sentence. The ones, as we said, the ones with the steps or the, the first, second, third. These are what are called, and there are going to be 2 types of supporting details, okay? First, second, third, and final are called the major supporting details. Right now, I'm just having you work with that one level, the major supporting details. Then, these sentences, which we've been looking at as the examples, these are called the minor supporting details. So the major supporting details here are psychological, unusual physical activity, something that disrupts your rhythm, and okay, this is a good one to show. Because in this one, we really can immediately see a purpose for each one of those sentences. Okay. Then remember, some sentences have a concluding. Some paragraphs have a concluding sentence. Some paragraphs have an introductory sentence that comes at the beginning, okay? So you guys already have this idea of picking apart a paragraph to see what purpose each sentence serves. Now we're going to work on really making sure that we know what all of these are. So this is going to prevent us from doing things like reading that paragraph. Remember way back at the beginning that paragraph about Mary Surratt, the woman who was hanged for murdering Abraham Lincoln? Remember her? And it had all that stuff about the ghosts and that stuff in it. Remember that one? And people always get hung up on that ghost because it's so fascinating. Why are people thinking, remember that? So people tend to say, students always tend to say, this paragraph is about Mary Surratt's ghost. Because it does. Remember, it took up quite a bit of that little paragraph. But as it turned out, that was only one of the reasons that she was considered to be innocent. And we said it wasn't necessarily a logical reason, but the fact that her ghost was going around saying she was innocent. Remember that stuff? So this is what is going to prevent us when we get into more complex college reading from getting off track and saying, gee, I think this paragraph is about people who work the night shift. You know, something jumps out at us because it's familiar or it's interesting. People who switch work shift from day to night and back again. Okay, maybe you've done that. And you think, yeah, this jumps out at me because I'm familiar with it. Then someone says, what is that paragraph about that you just read? And you said, oh, that's about not being able to sleep because you shift work shifts. Is that what the whole paragraph is about? No. So this is going to prevent that kind of stuff. When you guys get out of here and you're reading, like I'm always threatening you, you're reading 6 chapters of a psychology textbook and you're thinking, what does this say? Okay? This is going to help you if you back up and say, okay, wait a minute. What's mentioned most often? What is it telling me about that? Is there a topic sentence? And if so, what questions does that sentence bring up? And are the answers in there? Okay, so that brings us to this. And we've mentioned this before too. If you pick a topic and you say, okay, the topic is work shifts, all right? And you say, okay, what is this telling me about work shifts? Are you going to be able to find the answer throughout the whole paragraph? No, it's not really telling you anything about work shifts. So rather than say, I don't get what this paragraph is saying, guess what? You go back and say, maybe work shifts isn't the topic. Maybe I got to go back and see if something else is repeated most often. Okay? Same thing here. If you've got the main idea, you're pretty sure of what it is, but you can't find a topic sentence, maybe you don't have the main idea right. Maybe you need to back up and start over again. Even down to here, you think you've found a topic sentence, and you start looking for the answers to this question. Okay? A person who's constantly switching work shifts from day to night and back again is likely to have difficulty sleeping. You say, okay, why? There's no answers to that question. So maybe this isn't the topic sentence. Okay, so again, you've got to back up. So that's what I mean by number 7. Repeat the steps as often as necessary. Now, when you get into your real college work, this stuff is, you're going to find that it goes pretty fast. It's not going to take that long to do this. Your brain is going to do it as you're reading. But you have to have the structure there of what you're looking for. Why can't I understand this paragraph? This is really hard to understand. So let me back up and think this through. Okay? So in order to start out with this, so, and again, I do try to, believe it or not, I do try to stick to the book, even though I've copied most stuff out of it. What the homework is just getting the idea of doing number 5 and 6. So, like I said, you have a little bit of a break here because you're not going to have to read a whole paragraph the way we have been doing. What this homework gives you, and I put this reading keys up here, the little summary of what you have to read in the book. But again, as I know you guys are finding, don't attempt this homework until you've done that reading. There's a reading assignment. Okay, it's not a lot. I'm not asking you to read 6 chapters. I'm just asking you to read a few pages, okay? But do go over that before you start. Okay, so this is a little summary of that, just to remind you. And then what it's called is matching topic sentences to supporting detail. So what it's giving you here, what this homework is giving you, is just the topic sentence. So you're kind of looking at a paragraph inside out for this homework. We're not looking at the whole paragraph. Think in terms of a paragraph that would have this topic sentence. So you've done all this work. You've determined the topic, talking to a therapist online. You've asked yourself, what is it telling me about talking to a therapist online? Everybody knows what that is, a therapist. Could be anything, a psychological therapist, a psychiatric therapist, or, I don't know, a marriage counselor, yeah, something, some kind of help person, okay? Has some advantages. Okay. Number 5, and I want you to do this, okay? I want you to, just like, even though these aren't paragraphs, I want you to take a pen and, just like you have been doing, what questions do you ask here? You guys already know how to do that, right? Definite advantages. Just do this so I can see that you are following our little schedule, okay? Write the question. Then you're going to be presented with a handful of sentences. Okay, again, not in a paragraph format. What I kind of want you to do is think, this kind of is you can treat this as a writing exercise. My 301 class has peer review of their drafts of their papers. And you take somebody else's paper and you read it and you say, you know what, if this is all one paragraph, I don't think that all of these sentences support the topic sentence, okay? So if it helps you approach it like that, if all of these sentences were in one paragraph, which ones would you tell the writer don't belong there? Okay, if that helps you. Does that make sense? If you can't see the therapist, you're less likely to be self-conscious. Is that an advantage?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're less likely to be nervous about talking to somebody. Online therapy is becoming increasingly popular. May be true, again, we're not looking for true or false. Writing-wise, it could also go in the paragraph, but it's not one of the supporting details. So again, think in terms of what we've been doing and where could this sentence go in a paragraph that's going to list the advantages of this. Where could that sentence go in that paragraph? It could, yeah, it could go at the end, it could be the introduction, it could be a concluding sentence, it could be a beginning sentence, but it's not one of the supporting details. It doesn't tell us the advantage. Online, the therapist can't read the patient's body language. Is that good or bad? That's probably not good. That's one drawback, is that the therapist can't see if you're, whatever you're doing, okay? So this, again, these are interesting, they're probably true, they're part of the discussion about this, but it doesn't answer this question, it's not an advantage. patients are more willing to speak freely when they talk to a therapist online. That would be an advantage. So in this example, they've circled A and D, right? And notice, and you have some help here because it's only 2, so you know there are only going to be 2 in this section. So let's do one that isn't done for it. So this little explanation that she has, the key word, as we know, the thing that indicates there's going to be some kind of a list, as we already know, is advantages. I want you to actually jot that down up there, okay? So let's look at this one. Mammals are warm-blooded animals classified according to a number of different characteristics. If I had been writing this sentence, I might have added these words. Whoops. I should put my glasses on to see what I'm doing. Mammals are warm-blooded animals that are classified according to a number of different characteristics. Does that help to read that sentence? What's your question of this, on this? If this were the topic sentence of if you've done all your annotation and you figured the topics are mammals, the topic is mammals, and you found a topic sentence. Mammals are warm-blooded animals that are classified according to a number of different characteristics. What's your question? Number 5. What's your phrase that indicates there's going to be a list?
What are the different characteristics?
Yeah. So this is a number of different characteristics. That's your clue. And then your question is, what are they? What are characteristics? That might be a vocabulary word.
Behavior?
Yeah, things that they do that characterize them. We all have different characteristics, okay? And mammals also have different characteristics. It could be behavior. It also could be physical things. You can have physical characteristics also, okay? There are more than 4,000 species of mammals. Does that answer this question? No. Everybody see that? This could be the introductory sentence, but it doesn't answer the question, what are their characteristics? So if it helps you, cross that one out. Mammals always have hair and a middle ear formed by 3 small bones. Yeah, that tells us that's a physical characteristic. A number of mammals are on the red list of endangered species. Yeah. Again, could be a concluding sentence in the paragraph, but it's not something that you would have put on this list. So I think, again, even though the list is already made for you here, I think it's kind of what I was saying. I'm going to look, what I've been seeing with some people and on your homework and things, you're making a list that looks kind of like this. And at this point, I've been giving you credit for attempting a list, but I'm writing a question there and saying, what is this a list of? It isn't really a list of any specific thing. So again, I'm going to try to narrow you down on your lists. In mammals, the lower jaw consists of only 2 bones. Yeah, that's, again, so what they're looking at here, and you can make a note, they're not looking at behavior characteristics as much as physical characteristics. So that helps you see what's going on. Does that make sense, what you're going to do on this one?
The last one to me doesn't make sense.
In mammals, you mean the sentence itself or the fact that it's a characteristic?
The sentence itself.
Okay, the lower jaw consists of only 2 bones, as opposed to, this is not something I have prior knowledge about. I have no idea. Is anybody taken biology? Does anyone know, for instance, what does something that's not a mammal have different jaw characteristics? Yeah, this is a question. So we're mammals, right? So somehow, I don't know, but somehow our lower jaw consists of only 2 bones. And we have hair, and we have a middle ear formed by 3 small bones. I don't know enough about the anatomy to know whether there's just 1 bone there or 2. Maybe it means the jawbone and then whatever it is that connects it to the upper jaw. I don't know. So these are questions that you can, again, these are further research questions. Definitely make a question. Say, I want to look this up, find out exactly what this means. But for the purpose of this exercise, you have to agree that this is not a characteristic and this is not a characteristic, okay? So the 2 best answers, okay? The 2 sentences that qualify, it doesn't mean that you have to necessarily understand everything, and that's a good question to ask, all right? At this point, we're not being tested on list the physical characteristics of animals, okay? Does that make sense? So again, there are quite a few of these, and be careful because read the directions. I cut these out of the book. I just paste them out of the books. There are a couple of different exercises in here. So exercise 1, and I think, okay, and then this one wants you to circle 2 sentences. But then as always, it gets a little harder. This one, these are getting a little longer. So on test 3, you have circle the letter of the 3 details. Okay, so more stuff for you to read. Again, treat this as kind of a paragraph. Ask, say somebody has come to you and said, I need help with this paragraph about frogs that I'm writing for my English 301 class. What my teacher says I have a bunch of stuff in here that doesn't support my topic sentence. Which sentences should I cut out? So if you think of it that way, that'll help, okay? So this wants you to do that. I think that's it. Oh, no, there's one other one. So yeah, so people are thinking, oh good, all I have to do is go down and circle. I don't have to write anything. But I gave you a lot of stuff here. This one is the last one. There aren't very many of these, but this is a little bit backward. This one is going the other way. So this last exercise on the handout, it wants you, so be careful here, read the directions. It wants you to read all of the supporting details, okay, and then pick the topic sentence that best is the question for these answers, right? Many therapists believe that anorexia nervosa was a form of rebellion. Other therapists argue that it was a way of avoiding adulthood. They're now finding evidence that the disease may be caused by a chemical imbalance in the brain. So again, if you look at this as a paragraph, ask yourself which one of these sentences would best go up here. Some victims seek out psychiatric treatment, however, they more often try to hide their disease. So what question, this is the example, so we know this is, but just so you can see the other one. What question, if this were a topic sentence, what question does it raise? Some victims of anorexia nervosa, and here's the restatement clue for what that means, unnecessary or irrational dieting. Seek out psychiatric treatment, however, they more often try to hide their disease. What? Yeah, what? Why? So this is what we're saying. These people try to hide their disease. Yeah, why? How do they hide it? Right? That would be our question. Okay, do these answer that question?
No.
No. Okay, yeah. So that's where, although no one really knows what causes it, several theories. So guess what? Right? Okay. Some people thought it was a form of rebellion, some people think it's a way of avoiding adulthood, but now it's a chemical imbalance in the brain. So 3, guess what? Here's your list. Okay, so this one is right. This may be also true. Again, it could be the concluding sentence to this paragraph, but it's not these 3 things. Does that make sense? So it's going at it backward. Okay, so direction reading here, and again, treat all of these sentences as reading assignments. You know, you want to know what all this stuff means. As far as not necessarily knowing exactly what this jaw looked like, but understanding what does consist mean in this sentence. The lower jaw consists of.
Made up.
Yeah, made up of. So yeah, you want to be sure you can. Yeah, that's what that means there. Okay. So there may be some vocabulary things. You have to do some restatement clues. Prior knowledge clues, that kind of stuff. Okay, so I will hand this out. Somebody that doesn't look like I have anything. The next day I have all kinds. Oh, this is fatter. That's part of the reason. Okay, so I'll let you pass those back.
Thank you.
Okay, now we need to go on to our stuff for today. And this will be our usual thing. So today, remember, on these days that we introduce a new strategy, today you are only being held responsible for down here. You're not going to be asked to do this on the reading and writing today. Okay. On the vocabulary quiz, I always like to kind of hit the words that people have had trouble with in the past. Some teachers change their assignments every semester, but I find it helps to keep doing the same ones, because then I'm more clear on where people need help. Okay, so the one on here that is again the same issue in the sense that I think Lorraine Fleming is asking for more prior knowledge than college students tend to have today. This gives you a whole lot of interesting information, but nothing in here, it's a little bit misleading, because nothing in here is any kind of clue. The only clue here is prior knowledge, okay? Many of them, and it's got some other vocabulary words that we might need to look at. Many of the 19th century, so remember our times. It's always kind of interesting on this.
Is this the homework?
What?
Is this the homework?
I just handed the homework out. Yeah, you guys have them. A lot of people got confused on, this person got it right, okay, on your quiz that I just handed back. And the reason this is interesting, and one of the reasons I do this is, remember we talked about the 18th century, the 17th century, the 19th century. What you have to kind of be getting a picture of in your heads in order to succeed in college is, when was this? The 19th century was the 1800s, okay? So if we look at this question, horror films have been around since what year? Even if you hadn't known even if you hadn't been here the day we read that, what situation were films in, now think about this, in the year 1800? Did we have films in 1800? Did we have
No.
electricity in 1800?
No. There was theater, oh, there's just theater.
There was theater. Okay, so this doesn't make, a lot of people circled 1800. And I realize that for a lot of you guys, I mean, I'm old, let's face it. And to me, the Vietnam War was just yesterday. To you guys, Vietnam, World War II, the Civil War, it's all like, that's all back there somewhere, okay? So I realize there's a certain sense of, yeah, all of these dates are old, so they're all pretty much about the same, okay? But if you think of it, yeah, there's no way, there are no films back in 1800. That's way too long ago. Electricity wasn't even invented until, what, 1888 or something, okay? So, yeah, so be kind of aware. I want you to kind of understand what's going on here. Yes?
So the homework, you just passed it out, but what is this? Is this the quiz? Is this the vocabulary quiz that you're going
What I
over?
just handed you
Yeah,
back is,
that.
that's the thing we took the other day. Now I'm doing the word that's giving people trouble on the vocabulary quiz.
But there's different numbers, like this one says it's number 7, oh, it's number 9 on the board, on the thing there, but it's number 7 on the paper. They're different. Is the paper that you handed out the same as the one you're showing up there?
No, I haven't given this out yet. Okay?
Oh, okay, sorry, go ahead.
So, all right, so when they say many of the 19th century's first feminists, what does this word mean? What's a feminist?
Like a woman that fights for other women's rights?
Yes, women's rights type people, okay? Started out as passionate abolitionists. Okay, so this is the word we're trying to get.
Fish.
But when they were shut out of a conference in Britain because they were women, they decided to found their own movement. So did we have women's rights movements in the 1800s? When was the women's rights movement?
In the
It happened recently, yeah, 1900s.
Yeah, that was more recently. We had the civil rights movement, yeah, you remember that. That was 1950s, 1960s. Then the women kind of followed on the tail of that. They said, oh, if the African Americans can do this, the women can do this. So then the women's movement was in the 60s and 70s, okay? So these people are way back. These are before, way before women had the vote, way before anything. So what were they against in the 1800s? Now you think about this. We've done some reading on this. What big event happened in the middle of the 1800s that people had very strong feelings for and against?
Women working.
What? No, you guys, we've read Mary Surratt. We've read about the losses.
Against men?
No. We've read about the losses, both economic and the lives that were lost and the money that it cost. Okay? The Civil War. Okay? So that's the big war that happened in, whoops, anybody remember the years of that? And remember, Abraham Lincoln was president during that war, and he was assassinated in 1865. And Mary Surratt was hanged for it, but now they say she's not guilty. Remember all that stuff? This is prior knowledge. This is what I'm hoping that you guys are starting to see in your brain, where you're saying, oh yeah, I know something about that, and I can put it together with something else to create my own knowledge. This is the thing where people say, why do I have to read this? I can just look it up on the internet. Okay, sure, you can look up on the internet and find these dates. You can look up on the internet and find when the feminist movement was. The thing the internet doesn't do for you is put that together so that you understand what this is saying. Okay, so what would these women have been against before they founded their own movement? What was the Civil War about?
Joining.
Michelle? Slavery. Good, okay. So this is the problem with this word. Abolitionists means specifically those people who were against slavery before the Civil War. And there's, like I said, there's no other clue in this sentence that would tell you that.
If some unknown reason I would get